Hi, welcome. Today I thought I would take you through a little bit of the creative process. This Friday is actually International Bat Night, so I thought I would take you through a little bit of how I would create a bat. I did like a little sketch here. I just held up a 12-inch pattern to the window and traced around the outer edge, and then I did some sketching. I just wanted to make sure that on this side I had at least two connections. This side has quite a large connection here, so I wasn't too worried about the number of connections, but I wanted to make sure I had at least two connections on this side. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to start by cutting out this pattern. I wasn't really particular about which species of bat. Some of you might not like that, I'm sorry. But I did want to make sure that it was a recognizable shape as a bat, especially once it gets copied by 6 times in the snowflake itself. So hopefully it turns out good. We'll just have to see. Sometimes it's a surprise how well it turns out or how not so well it turns out. And this one is a 12-inch pattern, so I'm going to be using a 12-inch piece of wrapping paper today. You can use newspaper. Newspaper works really good, especially when you're practicing. I did think about using newspaper, but then newspaper would make it a little bit harder for me to make a pattern off of afterwards. I am going to try to make a pattern, if it turns out well, for you to use. So let's see how this all goes. I don't expect 100% rate for myself, so you have to give yourself a little bit of leeway when you're being creative. You can try things that may or may not work out. That's okay. So I just created a square from a rectangle, and that does our first fold. And then we're going to go ahead and match those 2 small points for our second fold. And then we're going to bring up this side, make fold number 3. And then we're going to tuck in the side with the 2 folds. Fold number 4. And fold that over. Double check that, make sure I didn't get too much in the fold. Just want to make sure I have a good fold. Folds are important because you are multiplying through those 12 layers all of your cuts. So all right, here we go. We're going to go ahead and hold this on with the paper clips. I haven't decided yet how closely I'm going to go to the details here. I know I added some cute little hairs on top of his head there. It looks like also, this is one of the things I run into with sometimes with my wrapping paper. So I did I traced a 12-inch pattern, but then my wrapping paper, as you'll notice when I line it up, my pattern is just going over just that little bit. So I'm going to need to modify my pattern just a tiny bit, or else just come down a little bit here to make sure that I'm going to go over I'm going to go through all the layers when I cut through that pattern. So I think I'm going to just scoot it down just that little bit, since I think I'll be okay. I do have a big center here. Just want to make sure that I'm good. And that I'm going to hit all of my connections that I need. So I definitely need to make those connections. My guess is that you're more curious how I'm going to handle the other side here. And I normally would use my smaller scissors, and I might still do that today. I think I actually will use my smaller scissors for some of the detail over here today, as I'm deciding how to make it look. It's a little bit tricky in the design process sometimes to decide how to make things look. But here with this cute little snout, I'm going to just go ahead. This is almost an upside down heart. It's a little bit different shape than a heart, but basically a heart shape. And then I am going to go ahead and just use a standard size punch for his eye. I'm going to assume that's what you have at home. That's what I designed this one for, is just for the standard size punch. You could, of course, if you wanted to, use this pair of scissors to go ahead and make this just a little bit more teardroppy shape. That's just up to you. But I'm going to try to keep this for beginners. So we're going to try to keep the cutting easy here. I'm going to use my smaller scissors for his little cute snout here. And one of the reasons why they do have International Bat Day is that they want to bring awareness to the fact that humans actually spread some diseases among the bats. Sometimes people are afraid of bats and think that bats spread diseases and they're going to make us sick. But we need to be aware that we sometimes spread diseases to the bats. Between the bats, there's something called white nose syndrome. It's a fungal disease that spreads to them while they're hibernating, and it's something that we actually spread to them oftentimes between caves. I mean, it can spread bat to bat, but as people go spelunking between caves, and oftentimes, you know, we're pretty good at washing our clothes and stuff, but we forget to wash our outdoor gear, like our ropes and different things that we use when we go spelunking. So we can sometimes spread the disease that way, like the mud and stuff that will be on our ropes or our other outdoor gear or backpacks will have the fungal spores, and we can accidentally spread from cave to cave. So it's just something to be aware of. All right, so to add detail without adding too many extra cuts, I'm just going to add like a little cut. Sometimes we do access cuts that are just little cuts that we try not to be seen. This is a little cut, but I'm trying to make it just wide enough to be seen. So we're going to hold that, and sometimes we have to fiddle around just a little bit with those. Make sure all the pieces come out. I'm going to end up doing one down from his ear also in just a minute. I won't go all the way to meet that one, but I'll go all the way to the end of his ear here. And I'll do that at the end, because I want to keep all this big piece. I usually keep the big piece on. I might keep the center until the very end, though, because I like the stability that this is giving me. I'm going to go ahead here. Let's see. These are actually fairly simple cuts on this side. So it's possible that you might want to leave the cuts on this side and do this one a little bit out of order and do the outside of it first, just because there's more detail on the outside, and we like to get the more detailed cuttings first to make sure we get them all correctly, or how we want them. It's not necessarily a correctly how you want it to be. In art, there's not always a correctly. So anyway, the manner you want it expressed, however you want to say that. Okay, right here I'm going to go ahead. I need to make sure that I keep that fold. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go off this edge, off this point, because I'm wanting to make sure that I get all of those layers. So I'm just double checking that I am getting all of the layers as I'm going over that edge there. Just want to make sure, and I'm going to come in just a little bit to make sure that I get over all of those. A lot of times the bats have these little thumbs kind of sticking up. You can choose whether or not to keep that. Completely up to you. Probably depends whether or not you have a nature lover or a bat lover in your house that insists that things be at least somewhat correct. Even though I didn't go for an exact species of bat here, I am trying to be at least somewhat correct. I think I'm going to stop right there at the bottom of that ear. And I'm going to take away from the wing to make that extra little definition here so that we can have that outline. Let's see, hopefully we got just enough. You can see it's very thin. So I want to make sure I got through all the layers. I also am trying not to tear. I just want to make sure that it does come away. You can see it's a very thin area, just enough for the light to come through is what I'm going for there. So a little bit thicker than an accent cut, but not so thick that it's going to take a huge amount away from the design. Okay. Then I still haven't decided quite yet if I want to keep the little cute hairs on his head or not. I know those are going to be hard for anybody that's a new beginner. I'm a little hesitant just knowing that those are going to be difficult. And sometimes those are something that I'll cut first. I'm going to go ahead and cut them, and then we'll decide if we're going to give them a haircut after, because a lot of times I give them a haircut afterwards. Just depends. We'll see how it shows up. It's a little bit tricky because I don't know why. Usually with little hairs protruding, you do kind of an odd number. But this way they're almost always even, or else you have a thicker hair in the center for some. Just kind of a funny thing that happens. We'll see what we can do here. I'll try. Definitely suggest a small thin pair of scissors if you're going to go ahead and try to give him a little fuzzy hair up on top. And you could just choose to do a little zigzag across the top of his head instead of trying to do like individual hairs. Just more of a feel of the fuzzy hair instead of individual little hairs. Would probably be much easier. But we will see what we end up with. Let's see, and then I think I might just come in with, let's see, still trying here. I'll just come in from this side just to trying to get my scissors in there, but fighting with the other ones that I already did. So we'll just go ahead and come in from this side. Come in here. Then I did choose to give him larger ears than a lot of bats have, but I did like the cute accentuated ears. There are bats species that have these larger ears. You'll just have to decide. If you decide to design for a specific species, I would really love to see it. And especially if you can tell me a little bit about the species, that would be really cool. So, okay, let's see what we have here. Oh, I didn't cut out the center yet. Almost done. Remember, we did leave that center in there for stability. And I am going to go ahead and I'm excited to see how the bat is, but I am going to go ahead and cut out some extra details here in the center, just while it's in one piece, just to kind of see what else maybe we can get here in the center. Just cutting freehand at this point, just to kind of see what we can get. And I'm actually going to leave the very center. Okay. And of course you can do more detail on the bat's feet if you wanted. I just chose to leave that simple. Again, I wasn't actually planning to use the smaller scissors, so I wanted to make sure it was a foot that could be cut out with a larger pair of scissors without any trouble. Sure I leave that fold on that one. Just got to be mindful of where you need to leave folds. You have to have at least one fold on both sides, but you want to leave two if they're small folds, just so you don't have twisting. That's what I've found. Okay, I know you're excited for the bat, but I'm going to open the center first. Sorry, don't mean to torment you, but just open this freehand center first and see how it ended up. We'll open up the white side just so you can actually see it on the against the blue here. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and open up our bat, and hopefully he turned out good. Let's see. And I did scan my sketch before I started cutting just in case. Oh, it turned out he looks pretty cute, even with his little cute hairs on his head. We'll see how it goes as we keep going. So you can always open it just that first flip and then make some changes before you completely unfold. And then you could always completely unfold and then completely refold. It's just a little easier to refold if you haven't completely unfolded. Okay, there's our cute little bat. You can see his little haircut changes a little bit. Looks like there was a little bit of a fold in the wrapping paper there, just a little bit of a glitch in the paper. He's still kind of rolled up, but hopefully you can see. I'll put a book or something on him and flatten him out and hopefully get a better picture for you later. But there we go. I hope you enjoyed the creative process, and I look forward to seeing what you create as well. Thank you for watching.